Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Thank you for tuning to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, where we discuss everything in the world of baseball. I'm Jeremiah.
And I am Ben.
Yeah, you like that dramatic pause there?
I did. I mean, it kind of like built up, the anticipation. I wanted to like throw in a drum roll, like da-da-da-da-da-da.
It's funny because I was on the football show with Alex, and every time we do the intro, and I do the intro, he's always like, and I'm Alex. I was like, dude, what was up with the pause? I just like dramatic pauses. So it's just a thing that I can't get over it with him.
And something that now you are doing here on the baseball show.
Yeah, I'm picking up bad habits from Alex.
Well, I mean, depending on who you ask, it's good or bad. If you enjoy doing it, then
I don't.
By all means, do it.
I only enjoy doing it for this show. For football show, I don't know why. I just don't like doing it. I don't know. But anyway, we got another action-packed show.
Yes, we do. As always, of course we do. So our lineup for today, first of all, we're going to be talking about Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim pitcher Matt Shoemaker. He suffered quite the head injury over the weekend. Definitely not too good. Update you on his status. Hopefully he will be back sooner as opposed to later. Also going to be talking about the Detroit Tigers, currently looking towards an American League wildcard berth. They're playing quite well recently.
Yeah,
we have a resurgence of certain players. And then we're going to be ending the show with a particular leadoff man for the Minnesota Twins that's having quite this season.
And we have another prospect for the Twins that's having a good weekend, I should say. But we'll get to that later. But anyways, we're going to start off with the Matt Shoemaker news. The Angels pitcher was released from the hospital on Tuesday, which was 2 days after undergoing surgery to stop additional bleeding in his skull after getting hit in the head with that line drive by Kyle Seager, in the Angels game against the Seattle Mariners. And it was brutal. Shoemaker had the procedure done late Sunday at Seattle's University of Washington's Medical Center. And, man, when I saw that, I was like, I couldn't help but cringe.
It's definitely one of those injuries. I mean, we have them in really every sport. Think about Kevin Ware of Louisville, the basketball player.
That was brutal. Yeah.
I mean, Paul George when he was playing for the men's United States FIBA championships. We had the guy from France, I believe, the gymnastics.
Oh, the gymnast
over here in the Olympics.
Yeah.
So we have all the time. We have those injuries. Those are mainly towards the leg, though. But with the head injury, that's when you have to be so much more cautious. You know what I mean? Because it underwent that. Shoemaker had a small skull fracture and he had hematoma. So it's definitely not something to play around with, something very, very serious. There's no updates about when he'll possibly return to action. I'd be really, really surprised if you see him the rest of this year. I mean, he's probably going through concussion symptoms and everything. So I'd say at this point, I don't see any way he plays this year. But hopefully, he can make a return. Think about people that have done that before, like people like J.A. Happ. He's doing quite well for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he got absolutely struck by a line drive, I believe, when he was playing for the Phillies.
Yeah, which was a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's doing quite well. He's made a really good return, so hopefully Shoemaker can do the same.
Yeah, and that liner that Seager hit had an exit velocity of 105 miles per hour, and according to MLB StatCast. Imagine having that going to your head. You can't react that fast enough, and I don't know. I just feel like baseball has to find a better way to protect their pitchers, especially with stuff like that, because it could happen any moment to any pitcher. It could have happened to, like, I don't know, let's say Madison Bumgarner. It could happen to him. It could have happened to, I don't know, Jay Happ. even though it happened to him before, it can happen to anybody on that field, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as Shoemaker is concerned, he's not doing quite well with the win-loss. He's 9-13, but he does have the best ERA on the team, which is at 3.88. And obviously the Angels not doing too well either. They're currently 4th in the AL West at 62 and 76.
He came into that game winning his 3 previous starts. So
right, he was doing quite well, and he seems like he's maybe their best pitcher this season, which, it's not really doing too well statistically wise, but he's definitely the best on the team as far as this season is concerned. You talked about how they can sort of protect players. I think with pitchers, it's extremely hard.
It is hard, yeah.
It's probably the hardest position to protect because you are so close to obviously you're on the mound, you're so close to the plate. People are hitting balls, like you mentioned, over 100 miles per hour. Line drives come right at you. You can't really sort of predict where it's going, or you can't really sort of, as a hitter standpoint, you can't really say, okay, I'm going to hit this ball to left field and left field only.
Yeah.
You kind of
you
have to just kind of hit it and hope that it's in play. So I think it's a lot harder. I think the only thing they can maybe do is maybe if they could put on a batting helmet or something they're doing like with the bench coaches, like some sort of protective headwear. I know a lot of players are not really fond of that idea as far as a comfortability standpoint. But, you might have to sort of just, as far as baseball is concerned, sort of lay down the law and say this is what's going to happen no matter what, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, the batting helmet for a pitcher. Me personally, I don't like that idea because, it's not comfortable. And I think if a pitcher is not going to be comfortable with like a high-tech cap or something like that, they're not comfortable with how it's going to be with their performance, that is probably going to be a problem for major league pitchers. If they're just plain not comfortable, they're not going to do it.
So what could they possibly do? Because I think the only thing, as I mentioned, is the headwear, because you can't really put like any sort of...
Yeah, you can't put a whole helmet on like you can in football. You can't. And
you can't wear like a whole bodysuit because pitchers take balls off their legs, their hands, their arms, all the time. But you can't really put on like a bodysuit. So what could they possibly do in your eyes then?
Honestly, though, I think maybe they should probably make some type of upgrade on the cap or something, because you can't make modifications to the uniform. You can probably make modifications to the hat, and because there was a pitcher that I saw a couple years ago for the New York Mets. I forgot his name, but he had something wrapped around his cap.
Okay.
Kind of looked like Super Mario in a way. It looked funny, but at the end of the day, it did protect him. I forgot the pitcher's name off the top of my head, but he was on the New York Mets. I saw it playing against the Giants. That's maybe one way that the league can adopt across the way, but they need to find some way to modify, the baseball cap on the head. I'm not saying put a lot of padding on it, but they just need to find some way to protect players on the mound. You can't put a full body armor suit on when you're on the mound. It's just not going to happen. People are not going to want to see that, But I don't know. They just need to find a way. It's kind of hard to figure out because it's the hardest position to protect, not just in baseball but all of sports as well.
Yeah, I think it's really complicated. You look at other sports that are pretty high contact. You think of the NFL, you think of hockey. They all have some sort of like a helmet, but I think you can't really do that with baseball.
You can't.
You're going to limit sort of their maneuverability, which with a pitcher is everything, So I don't think they can do that. You mentioned some sort of different protective headwear. I think that would kind of be hard too, because I think at the bottom of the line you'd have a comfortability issue with a lot of people. So I think it's hard. I think you kind of have to just understand the risks, sort of accept them, and kind of...
Which I think is some pitchers do. I do think they accept that risk, and I don't know if they want to be more protected, but I can understand that, they probably do want to accept the risk, which is what they're doing now,
Yeah, and I think like it's one of those things you kind of have to just understand the risks, and
even,
I hate to say this, but kind of just accept it.
Yeah, even Ryan Vogelsong, he got hit in the eye. He wasn't even pitching; he was batting.
Right.
So,
which in the NL you have people doing that. With Shoemaker, that would never happen unless he's having an interleague game in an NL ballpark because he's on the Angels, which is an American League team. But still, you have you have pitchers with that much a greater chance to get injured. Vogelsong is obviously an example of that. So, I mean, I don't know. I think you kind of just have to, I hate to say it this way, but kind of deal with it and just, face the repercussions, because I don't think there's anything you can do realistically without hampering or harnessing their talents or their maneuverability or really their comfort level. So
yeah, that's why I don't see any changes for protective gear for pitchers coming anytime soon. Players don't want that. But if they just find a way that players are comfortable with, then that's a win-win. But it remains to be seen if that's ever going to happen, because this brutal injury to Matt Shoemaker, it was just, I don't know. It might open maybe some eyes a little bit. It might open.
I think the more often this thing happens, obviously it'll be addressed a lot more sort of serious. Think about what they did with the bench coaches. So I agree with you in that aspect, but I mean, I have to just kind of wait and see what happens.
Yeah,
so
it is very hard. It's a very hard thing to to fathom in a way, to discuss.
Right. So hopefully for Shoemaker and for everyone at the Angels, he gets a speedy recovery and he can sort of put this behind him and go back to pitching and be successful. So
yeah.
So with that being said, we're going to take our first break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. After the break, we're going to be talking about the resurgence of an American League powerhouse in the Detroit Tigers. We're going to take our first break, and we'll be right back at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. And Ben, it looks like the Detroit Tigers are clawing back into the playoff race.
Yeah, I love how you did that there with the pun with the Tigers. So
you like how I did it with the with my hand motion?
I wasn't even paying attention. Do it again? Or were you just like
clawing back? I'm not gonna do that.
Rawr. That's what Jeremiah was doing. He kind of threw up the claws, but he didn't do the sound motion. So I had to help him out there and throw it in. But yes, the Detroit Tigers currently only a game out of a wild card spot right now.
Yeah, and they're doing it with the resurgence of Justin Upton. He looked like he couldn't hit a baseball first half of the season, and now that's all he's doing. All he does is hit no matter what.
Yeah, he's having quite the second half for a team that really needs a lot of his help, especially on the offensive side. Think about the Tigers in their heyday a few years ago. What did they have? They had great hitters with Miguel Cabrera and Prince Fielder, and then they had good pitching with people like Justin Verlander. So now you have Justin Upton, who can kind of come in and maybe be the Prince Fielder of this sort of team to go along with Miguel Cabrera, who we all know is just like the model of consistency when it comes to hitting a baseball.
Yeah, and he was honestly having one of the worst seasons in all of baseball, before that. But he's hitting for his last 7 games. He's hitting .318. And in the month of so far in September, he's hitting but he's hitting at 300. He's having a really good year. And the Tigers needed Justin Upton to be resurgent in a way because, he brings so much value to that lineup when he is good. You think of a lineup that includes Ian Kinsler, Miguel Cabrera, having Justin Upton playing the way that he's playing, it's a huge plus. Huge plus for the Tigers that are trying to claw back into the playoff.
Even Victor Martinez at the DH
exactly,
spot,
even Victor Martinez is another guy, yeah.
So, yeah, like I mentioned, the Tigers only a game out. It seems like I wouldn't say we kind of threw the Tigers out, but we both predicted that we thought the American League East would have 3 playoff teams, obviously the division winner and then the 2 wild cards. But now the Tigers only a game out, and they're still doing it not just with the offensive, with the bat, but they're doing it with the pitching as well. People like Justin Verlander are still, holding it down there. And then you throw in some of these rookies like Michael Fulmer. He's having a great rookie year. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you think of the Tigers' chances?
When I'm looking at the standings here, in the wild card standings, that is, they're competing with a lot of other good teams. They're competing with the Astros and practically the three other teams in the American League East. So I think it's going to be hard for them because of the American League East is so top heavy this year. But, I'm not going to rule them out. I'm not going to rule them out because of, the way they're playing at the most important time of the season. I can't rule them out right now. And every time we ride someone off, they end up,
always.
Every time we ride them off, they ended up proving us wrong, and I can't do that here.
No.
And watch. They're probably going to, lose now.
They're going to have, a Pittsburgh Pirates 8-game losing streak
they
all of a
probably
sudden.
will.
And then we'll be talking next week what happened to them.
Exactly. This is how it is in sports. We always speculate because this is what we do. We speculate, and we write people off, and then they just prove us wrong. This is how it is,
Definitely. And I mean, as far as the Tigers' standpoint goes, I mean, they're right there in the thick of it. I kind of feel upset for the American League because think about this. You have the Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles. One of those is obviously going to win the division, so they're in. I think the AL East gets at least one team in the wild card spot. So then you have the Tigers battling right there. You have the Astros right there. Even the Yankees, Royals, Mariners, all with over 70 wins. They are right there battling it in the thick of it. And then you look at the NL. You have the Giants, Cardinals, and Mets, the only teams with 70 wins. You have 3 teams. But you have in the American League, you have 9 teams battling for 2 spots that are all within 70 wins. You have so many more competitive teams in the American League with the same number of spots. I kind of feel bad for them. You know what I mean? There's so many.
League?
There's so many good teams that are possible to make good runs at a postseason berth, but they're not going to have a chance to because there's so many good competitive teams.
Yeah, and, it is hard to speculate who's going to win the wild card race. It's because of the American League East is mainly the majority of teams in there. And, getting back to Justin Upton here, he took a couple of days off last month to try to regroup, and it has worked. That plan had worked for the Tigers. After, since returning on August 20th, Upton has gone 19 for 56, 4 doubles, 8 home runs, and 21 RBIs. That's a .339 average. I don't know. I just don't know what came up to have this resurgence.
I've really never been a fan of those things. Because here's how I think of it is if you're having a bad stretch at work, you maybe take a couple of days off, but then you go back into work and you still have the same problems right in your face. You know what I mean? It's not like they just absolutely disappeared. So I feel like whenever people do that, I'm like, I don't really think that's a good idea. I don't see how it helps you. But for Upton, I guess it definitely has. So I'm really surprised at that right there.
Well, it's a little different. Like when you're taking days off of work, if you're a normal person, it's different because the same people are always going to be there. In baseball, you're judged based on your performance, and the bat. Justin Upton looked like he was one of the worst players. I don't know. I can't say, if he was a problem in the clubhouse or there was problems internally in the organization. I can't say that. But the way that he's playing, that day off did work. It's baseball. It's a little different than having a normal 9-to-5 job. It's different because it's a sport. Any given day you can have a great game. Any given night you can have a bad game. Justin Upton happened to have a bad game every night, but now he's having a good game every night. So I just don't know how it worked, but it is doing wonders for the Tigers.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of different sort of factors that go into it. But he's getting a lot of sort of, in my opinion, some positive sort of confidence, some composure with the Tigers playing so well, hitting the ball really good lately too.
Yeah,
so.
And Justin Upton didn't look any confident at all earlier this year. He did not look confident at all. He was really different from the guy that he was with the Braves. and the Diamondbacks. He just wasn't that guy, you know.
And maybe he is going to be that guy again. And the Tigers obviously hope so too, because every game's important. You know, what I mean, they're battling right there, a game out of the wild card.
Yeah, and like I said, I can't write them off.
Definitely, I would not either. I think the Detroit Tigers are still right in the thick of it, and then we're not writing them off. So now, watch, they are going to all of a sudden, like I said, just drop out of it completely, and then we have another segment for next week. So I'm just calling it right now.
All right, all right. Well, for a team going from a team that is in the playoff race to another team that's not even in contention, but we're going to have to talk about them after our second break here.
Yeah, we'll be right back here after this commercial break at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast with that bit of information Jeremiah just mentioned. So we'll be right back, guys. Only one more break. Just fight through it, okay? Thank you.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And welcome back into the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, updating you on the New York Mets and the Cincinnati Reds game currently going on. So we are in the bottom of the third inning, and the Mets have a 2-0 lead over the Reds, as well as they have Noah Syndergaard on the mound. So as far as 3 innings go, it's definitely a good start for the Mets. We'll have to see how they do in an important game as they battle for that NL wildcard spot with the Cardinals and with the Giants. But one team who is not, unfortunately, going to be battling for a wildcard spot, Jeremiah, is the Minnesota Twins, currently sitting at 51-88, the worst team in the league.
But the reason why we're talking about him in this show today, because Brian Dozier is having the best season ever for a second baseman.
He's almost looking more like a bulldozer.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Like
okay.
bulldozer.
Yeah, okay.
But
okay. All right. Bad joke. All right, hashtag bad joke.
I thought that was pretty good.
Okay, it was okay. But yeah, Brian Dozier, first player to hit 22 home runs and 36-game stretch since Sean Green in 2002 with the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's been over a decade since that happened.
Yeah, and with his 22nd home run, you mentioned Jeremiah, coming on the final day of July. Since the end of July, July 31st, Dozier ranks first in these 4 categories: home runs, RBIs, slugging percentage, and runs. So he has 22 home runs. That's 9 more than any other player during that time. He's got 40 RBIs. He's slugging .870, and he has 38 runs. Yeah, all tops since July 31st.
Yeah. And he hit his 39th home run in Tuesday's game. But, you know, that's the most by a second baseman, or I should say infielder for the Twins, or Senators when they were known as the Senators back in the day, to hit more. The only player, or infielder I should say, to hit more home runs than 39 is Hall of Famer Harmon Killebrew, who did it 6 times. Remember, he had 49 in 1969 and won American League MVP.
And as well as Dozier, we keep talking about him. He's doing all these great records. He's homered in 5 straight games. He's only one of 4 players in the Twins Senators history to do that. So he's going to try and tie Roy Seaver's record of 6 straight games in 1957. He will be trying to do that tonight against the Kansas City Royals. Yeah. So Dozier having just a season to remember for the Twins, who really aren't having that season to remember. And then that leadoff spot is really surprising.
What, for Dozier?
Yeah. Because normally you see leadoff hitters. What do you think of as a leadoff hitter? You think of a guy who has good contact, a guy who's maybe good on the bases, can maybe turn a double, a single into a double, steal a base.
Dozier does do that. He has some speed. People forget about his athleticism. He was close to 20 steals.
Right, but you don't see necessarily a guy with the power he's sort of addressing here.
Yeah, he's not the prototypical leadoff man because he hits home runs. You know?
Yeah, he's currently second in the American League with 39 home runs. He's got 92 RBIs. You mentioned he does have some ability to steal bases. He's got 13 steals, which is not bad. So he's not necessarily doing quite well with his batting average. He's hitting .278, but that's still not terrible. That's I'd say that's pretty average for nowadays a hitter. So he really just flashing it with the long ball right now, the bulldozer.
And speaking of leadoff hitters, Brian Dozier joined Mookie Betts, Charlie Blackmon as leadoff hitters with a 3-homer game this season. Only 3 to do that. It's just, and I actually remember interviewing Brian Dozier last year in Minnesota when I went to a conference. Cool dude, man. Very humble.
Yeah, definitely.
Very humble.
You think about a lot of these athletes, you'd think they have like these really big egos or like celebrities in general, really big egos, but really they're just like average people who happen to be, like in Dozier's instance, good at baseball, or they happen to be good at acting or football, so. Baseball
players probably have the least amount of ego out of any athlete. Players.
Baseball sort of is not nearly as popular as some of the other sports, not really sort of shown a lot. Think of advertisement. You think of like basketball players and football players. You don't see too many baseball player advertisements. I mean, you see like Mike Trout with Subway, but other than that, you don't really see too much.
And I saw a Chris Bryant Express commercial the other day too. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great brand. I wouldn't mind representing them. They have great clothes.
Yeah, I agree. And another player I want to talk about before we go is Byron Buxton, the top prize Twins prospect for the last few years, is also having a great September.
Yeah, since he got called up, obviously the Twins, you have to look at them. They're definitely out of it. They might as well get their young guys, their best prospects up there, get them experience, get them ready for next season. Jeremiah, you mentioned there might be a team next year that you think could be flirting with maybe having a successful season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about 2 years ago, they were definitely right in the thick of things. They kind of reminded me of this year's Royals, a team that's maybe not necessarily don't belong there, but a team that surprised people with how they were playing early on in the season. They kind of turned it around. And like I mentioned, the Twins not having a season to remember this year, but who knows? Next year anything is possible. If Dozier can keep playing the way he is, talk about some of the prospects, some other guys he might bring in. Could be a good season for Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, and Byron Buxton, since this is actually his 3rd time being called up to the Bigs this season, he's sort of struggled for the past 2 years. But he's hitting .455, and he has 3 home runs and 9 RBIs. That is incredible. And, I was talking about Justin Upton didn't look like he couldn't hit the baseball earlier this year. Byron Buxton looked like he couldn't even hit anything. He was like a prototypical quadruple A player. Like he just couldn't it looked like he couldn't make the transition to the majors. I think being pretty productive in the minors. But, we're actually seeing, the development and growth of Buxton right now. And with the guys like Max Kepler, Robbie Grossman, Miguel Sano, who was another top prospect in the Twins organization, who has struggled at times, but has also made great strides at times. He has tremendous power. He's probably always going to have that power. With Buxton and Dozier, those group of guys, honestly, I think they can possibly be a surprise team next year. They just need to get some pitching. Jose Barrios, their top pitching prospect, needs to, catch up with the speed of the game. And if he does, he can potentially be the ace of the future. So I like the future of Minnesota with the core players they have now. I don't know if they're going to, be a playoff contender next year, but I can possibly maybe turn some heads, be a playoff spoiler next year. But I do like the future in Minnesota. It looks pretty bright with the group of core players that they have there.
Yeah, they have a lot of good young players. You mentioned they'd have to just sort of shoe up some other aspects, get better in some other aspects, and then they could be right there. It's definitely a possibility. We have to wait and see. Like, think about how bad the Houston Astros were for so long, and now the last couple of years they've really turned it around and been a successful franchise.
They finally got pitching. That's what helped them. That's all it is.
They do say that pitching wins championships, and I am a firm believer of that.
And look at the Giants. They won 3 championships the last 5 years because of pitching.
Yeah, it's definitely not because of their hitting, because
they're not hitting anything at all.
They couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat right now.
Wow.
So, I mean, they're really struggling with the bat. So, definitely with the Minnesota Twins, it's definitely an aspect we will have to follow here at the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. But with that being said, that is going to conclude this episode of the show.
Yes, but Ben and I will actually be back for the football show on Friday. If you can't get enough of us, guys.
Yes, so if you do love our personalities and our voice or are a fan of football, we will be recording the last episode going into the weekend for the football podcast on Friday. Obviously, we have college football and the NFL regular season finally kicking off on Thursday and leading into the weekend. So if you're a fan of that, make sure you subscribe to that, and you can listen to it on gsmcpodcast.com, just like you can hear our baseball show on that website as well. That is the network's website page. A lot of great podcasts on there, as well as a lot of great coming soon ones. You can click on the coming soon tab and see just exactly what will be coming in the future. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is at @GSMC_baseball. And then you can find us on just about any media playback. Think of them like iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. A lot of great places, even YouTube and Facebook.
Yes, Facebook. Yes.
Gotta love Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg and the social network really doing great things over Facebook.
That's a great movie.
It was a good movie. I liked it. You know,
yeah.
he built a fortune over there at Facebook. So definitely got his life set up.
And then you got Justin Timberlake playing the founder of Napster, Sean Parker, who looks nothing like him, but whatever. He played that part pretty good.
Yeah, gotta love JT. He's one of my favorite musicians. So, but anyways, that's going to conclude this show for the GSMC Baseball Podcast. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Jeremiah.
And we will be hitting you with another couple episodes next week. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.